just mounting my EVGA Supremacy EVO water block on, and got the LGA 11.5 backplate, and I've just had to modify it to fit this Strix a little bit. So you can see there's 3 cutouts on this backplate for the old like rear socket screws, and because these are moved out, I've just drilled an extra hole there and elongated that hole there a little bit, just so that it's not touching the backplate there, and then I'm able to screw it all in properly. There's a look at the back of the board, because I don't think I've shown that already. So now we're going to try and fit the water block. There are quite a few caps around the socket that are quite close, as you can see here, and also the Z height of this is supposed to be lower than it was before, so that's that way. So I'm just going to make sure the block isn't sitting on these bits here. Oh yeah, look at that, easily clearing there. And there is a little gap between the block and there, so it is going to get mounting pressure, and that is on the CPU now. That was just a dry run. So now I'm going to put some this new MX5 thermal paste on. So I'm going to go with a line of thermal paste down the middle. Feel free to be triggered in the comments. There we go, I've got the block on now. I'm going to run 4 dims. Right, before I start, if you hear any explosions in the background, it's because it's the 5th of November, it's bonfire night here in the UK, so everyone's letting off fireworks and having bonfires. Anyway, so here's the setup. Got the board on the test bench, got the GT710, which makes the skew latch thing entirely pointless because this card's only 8X, but obviously I'm going to be testing out the CPU first. Got my 4 DIMMs in, so we've got dual rank memory. These are single rank sticks of 8GB BDI each, 4400C19. Got my Windows 11 USB stick in there. Then for the cooling, we're running the EVGA Supremacy EVO, which is an old water block. Had to drill a bit of holes in the back plate, which you would have seen, and screw it on. The only bit that's a bit tight is screwing this thumb screw up here, but it's fine, you can get to it from 2 sides. Got the pond pump, if anyone's new to the channel, watching this for the first time. There's 2 pond pumps in there, 65 watts each. One pump does just the CPU by itself, and the other pump does this MO RA3 LT radiator, which is basically a 1080, which is 3 360s. It's on some paint tins, and yeah, it's got terrible Corsair fans on, but they push loads of air, so who cares. So yeah, let's get it fired up. Now obviously this board doesn't have a power button, so that's annoying, so I'm going to have to find a screwdriver or something. There we go, that's the first boot. 12900K. Got 32 gigs of RAM, new CPU installed obviously. So RGB on the board is only that bit there, which you can see through my blue LED fan, which isn't RGB. It started up first time. The post lights down here are extremely bright, and you can't see what it says next to it until it gets to the green one. So that's not very helpful because you get blinded, so you can't see which one it is on, but they are colour coded. I've only got, what, 4 or 5 fans going at the minute? 5 fans going at the minute, which is fine. So we'll just check those in the BIOS. Let's just check the temperature. Oh, it says there actually. 17 degrees, 16 degrees. The camera will focus. There we go. So yeah, it's running at 2133. It says the cooler's 188 points. This CPU has an SP rating of 86. I think we want to remove all limits, I think, and we want to run in 1 to 1. So this is whether you're in gear 1, 2 or 4. Now if you're on DDR5 you'll be running in 2 or 4. With DDR4 you want to run 1 or 2, so I'm going to go for 1 for now. So first LED's red, I think second one's yellow, third one's white, which is blinding. So that's the memory one. Can it really not do 3600 C16? Should be the white one next. There we go. Took a while there. Thought it wasn't going to post. Right, it's going now. Had to use a different SSD for some reason. It didn't like the other one, even though they were both integral 5 series. This is a 240. One that's in now is a 120. So, installing Windows 11. I've got a Spectre Pro USB stick in. Finished testing the first CPU now. I'm going to start testing the second one here. You can see I took 2 of the sticks of memory out here. So I'm only running 2 sticks now. With the 4 sticks altogether, I could run 3600 C16, couldn't run C14, couldn't run 3700 stable. Not brilliant results. This is in gear 1 with the memory and the memory controller 1-to-1. With the 2 sticks in, I could run 4000 C14 or 3866 C16. Both of those are C16, there wasn't any C14 unfortunately. So yeah, I'm not very impressed with the performance. I don't know whether it's the board or the BIOS or the CPU. I haven't updated the BIOS. I'm going to test both CPUs on the same BIOS, so it's an apples to apples comparison. I'm testing with a Ghost Spectre Windows 11, and yeah, let's see what this second CPU can do. Finally managed to get the BIOS from Asus so I can actually update it, and now the cache finally works. The cache overclocking on the 12900K. So you can see I've got 4.1 on the cache now, which is the same speed as the slowest E core. So the E cores are at 4 and 4.1 and 4.2. The P cores are all at 5.2 at 1.32 volts. And you can see I've got the memory running at 4000, 14, 15, 15, 32 on a 1T command rate. I started at 16, all 16s. I'm just bringing it down one at a time. These two I'm bringing down together. That one I'm bringing down one at a time. So I'm going 14, 15, 15, then 14, 14, 14. So I haven't tried this yet, but 15, 15, 15 passed. SuperPi 32M. So I'm going to run this setup next, and it's getting a bit quicker each time, as you can see down here. I've also managed to break 30,000 in R23 now. That was just at 5.2, so that's good. Got to mention as well, this BIOS is 0605 version. I have got a version that's a 7 as well, but I haven't tried that one yet. But this is a lot better than the initial 404 BIOS, so if you're on that old one you probably want to update it. So I kind of messed up this video because I didn't film half of it. The results from both the CPUs, I need to go through that with you. So basically, as you know, I got 2 processors, 2 of the i9 12900Ks. One of them was SP86, the other one was SP87. Now in the BIOS it tells you the SP rating of both the performance cores and the E cores. The one that was SP86 actually ended up being higher SP on the performance cores and lower on the E cores. However, the E cores on the SP86 CPU overclocked higher, even though on the SP87 CPU it said they were better. So the SP number doesn't necessarily mean the CPU is better. Mine were very close, so it didn't really make a difference. On both of these CPUs I was running 5.2 on all of the P cores, and then on this one I can run 4.2 across all of the E-cores. On the other one, I can only run 4.1 on one set and 4.2 on the other set. So the reason I changed from the normal Windows 11, just a normal fresh install, over to the Spectre Pro, which I'm now running, I'll be running in all of the other videos, is because it was extremely slow booting up and I didn't know why. It turned out I needed to update the BIOS and that kind of fixed it and made it a lot better. But yeah, I did update the Windows, and obviously this is a stripped Windows, so it's more efficient anyway. So that's why I changed the OS so quickly. It seems quick in the video, but it was filmed over a couple of days. It was the performance, which I didn't really go over. Basically, I tested the SP86 CPU first, ran that through all of the benchmarks with the 4 DIMMs in at 3600C16. I couldn't get the system to post any more than 3600C16. It had just not post at all. What I did was, when I updated the BIOS, I changed the CPU and I changed to 2 DIMMs, and I was able to get 4000 15 15 15 running, which is what it's running now, and that works on both of the CPUs on this new BIOS. This is 0605. So it was the 0604 BIOS which sucked originally. So you can see the power and temperature I'm getting there. This is on the other CPU, so we're running 1.32 volts set in the BIOS. You can see it does actually get up a little bit higher with the LLC settings we're on. I'm on LLC 6, which is the second highest one. Still on the same water cooling as before. So they're the memory timings and speed, which you can see there. So yeah, the R23 score, well, the highest score, which if I open this I can show you a screenshot of. So there you go, that was my highest score, and basically on the slower CPU I couldn't get it to score 30,000, and that's because one set of the E-cores, 4 E-cores, were at 4.1. So on this one, where all the E-cores do 4.2, I managed to get over 30,000, and I realised the CPU-Z's actually blocked on that screenshot, so that's a bit of a fail. But I did manage to get over 30,000 multiple times on this CPU, and you can see even with all these things open, it's still getting like 29,900 in R23. So I'll just show you the scores down here, but these are my best scores that I've got. So in R15 I've managed to get 4566, in R20 11,480, R23 30,120. Now these scores are all slower than a 5950X on ambient cooling, but you can see when I started at stock or slightly overclocked, those are the kind of scores I was getting. You can see that was at 5, 5.2, 5.3. These ones here would have been on the Auto OC, so it would have been turboing up to these speeds, but not necessarily staying at them for the whole run. There's also a couple of things I want to go over in the BIOS as well. I've got the SP86 CPU in at the minute, which you can see there, but I'll show you where the this is only for Asus ROG boards, but basically it tells you separate SP numbers as well in the AI features menu, and then it'll say here, so P core SP, E core SP, this one's 95 and 70. Now my other CPU is SP86, and then the scores for that one are 93 and 75. So they're very similar, It says on the SP rating for the other one that the E-cores are 75, yet the E-cores on this one overclock better. So take your SP rating with a grain of salt, especially if they're quite similar. If there's a huge difference, that CPU is probably better, but if they're pretty similar, you need to actually test them yourself and check. You can see I was running a fixed sync all cores, and I was running a bi-core usage on the efficiency cores, and on the other CPU I literally had it like that, so it's 41 and 42. On this run I can run 42 on both. Now I'll just show you the memory timings quickly as well. So it's at 1:1, 4000. Then these are the timings that it can actually run at: 15, 15, 15, 32, 1T command rate. So you can see I've still got a lot on auto, and all of these down here I've set. That's pretty much it, and that is with the memory at 1.55 volts and the system agent voltage of 1.34. CPU voltage is 1.32, and if I go in the VRM menu, you can see there I've got load line calibration set to level 6. Asus recommend level 4. Level 4 has massive amounts of V-droop, so I don't like using that one. Level 5 is probably the best, to be honest. And then I've got the duty phase control and power phase control on extreme, and I've switched the switching frequency up as high as it'll go, current capability as high as it'll go. I haven't changed anything for the memory down here. Now if you're doing a per core overclock, you might want to use, not that one, this one here. So you can set extra voltage on the CPU over a certain frequency, and when you're doing a per core overclock on your P cores, you can actually set them all up individually. So say I had 54, 54, 53, 53. You want to set a specific core ratio limit for each one, so only your best cores do 54 and your slower cores do 53, and then your worst cores are doing 52. So to find out which are the best and worst cores, you can also do that from this AI feature down here, and it actually tells you the sort ranking of the cores in the BIOS here. So number 2 is the best, number 3 is second best, 6, 7, and then obviously 4 and 5 are the worst, and you can see the VIDs up here. Now this ranking of your cores on the CPU, I found it to be pretty accurate. So yeah, and you can see down here as well, it says you should be able to do 54 on 3 of them, 52 on 5, and 51 on all, but this depends on your load, so it doesn't really matter, and it says there which ones to set. That's if you're using the AI mode, because you can actually set it to use AI optimized, which is that bottom one there. But if you're doing a per core usage, you can still use the AI to set your cores. So I'd do 54, 54, and then it was 6 and 7 were second best for me, so they'd be 53, and then all these other ones would be 52. So that is something to note in the Asus BIOS. Not sure if other boards do that, but I like to have sync all cores. Especially if you're running Cinebench and stuff like that, you're never going to be getting those 1 and 2 core things unless you're doing the single thread. If you're doing 3D benching, that's when you want to start using your bi-core usage, so that you can have a higher CPU clock during the GPU bit of the benchmark, and then it lowers itself for the CPU bit so it doesn't crash. So I just wanted to go through that with you in this video.